There we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone to this fantastic and exciting broadcast of the Becoming series tonight. This is something that I have been waiting for the longest time, to share with you the journey, the process of this individual who many of us look up to. Many of you see this individual's stories. You in Afrikaans sê ons jy hang aan sy lippe, but very few of us understand the journey that this individual has walked. And I know that those of you who are on this live stream tonight, even if you're watching the rebroadcast or if you're in the podcast, that your life will be forever impacted if you take to heart not only what my guest is going to say, but if you also allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you tonight, because this is a divine appointment. We have been praying and really asking the Lord that He would send those who might have been at a place of giving up, who might be at a place where you have said, I don't know if my life has got a purpose. Perhaps I'm too old. Perhaps I've messed up too many times in my life. Perhaps you don't have a father in your life who could give you direction or a mentor. Or perhaps you just made some mistakes in life. But tonight's guest that I've got on the process of becoming is going to debunk and going to turn the tables on every excuse that we can have to not become a person of value. So if you have not yet done so, I really want to ask you to share this feed. I want you to comment. And if you go to my page, I know this is live on various platforms right now. It's on YouTube. It is on Kevin Davis. It's on Dominion. But if you want to comment and you want me to bring your specific comment onto the live stream tonight, I want you to head on over to my page, Chantell Davis, because on there, I will be able to showcase your comments. For example, we've got someone here, Ria, she says, good evening, everyone. Good evening, all. Hello, Ria. So if you want your comments to show here, even if you have a question, and I'm going to introduce my guest in a minute, but if you've got questions for him, go to my page, comment there. I'm going to bring them up and he will be able to answer those things if you might have a question. So without further ado, I now want to introduce you to someone who I have high respect for, and it is none other than Mr. Julian Jansen. Hello, Julian.
Goeienaand, Chantell. Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And thank you and welcome as well to the listeners and the viewers.
Amen. He's such a humble man. And I'm just going to bring some comments up quickly. I see Fakile. She's saying, good evening. Watching from Queenstown in the Eastern Cape. Well done. So good to have you here. There's a lady, Marishka. She says, good evening. So if you want your comments to show you, you are welcome to send them. But let me just introduce you to this fantastic individual who is with us tonight. Maybe you don't know who he is. So I hope I do a good job. But Julian Jansen, he is an investigative journalist and he is currently working for Rapport. And then he is also the best-selling author. And I know of two books. The one is Seuns Sonder Paas. En dan baie onlangs het die boek uitgekom, Moord op Stellenbosch. Fantastiese boek, aangrypend, en jy moet jou hande op daardie boek kry. Ek weet daar het baie ure, baie navorsing ingegaan in daai boek. En Julian, dit is 'n regtig ware groot eer, maar vanaand gaan ons nie net praat oor die hoogtepunte nie. Ons gaan sommer lekker diep delf en ook sommer oor die pad wat die Here met jou gestap het, oor hoe jy gekom het waar jy nou is. So ek weet nie of jy vir iemand wou groet of hallo sê, voordat ons net vir die mense 'n kansie gee om bietjie hierso by te kom.
Yeah, so I saw that viewer from Queenstown, and we as a family, we actually migrated to the Western Cape from Alleville North. And I was born in Lusiki in the Eastern Cape at that time. I think Lusiki means whispering reeds. So I was born there, and then we took the train in 1969, and my father found work in the West Cape. And I can remember we going by train, and the health inspectors actually confiscated our chickens. They actually was concerned that we will bring some bird flu to the Western Cape. But we arrived here safely, and we are still here in the Western Cape and in the Strand, Gordons Bay, just next to the sea. beautiful
Wow.
place.
So how long have you been in the Strand?
I'm going to give away my age now, eh? So yeah, since 1969, when we arrived in the Strand, that was the time just when the colored people were actually kicked out or moved from town, the Strand, to an area that we call Lost World,
Wow.
which comprises South End and Ristov at the time. And since then, the area has grown very fast, and it's a huge area actually now. Strand is part of the Helderberg, which also comprises Somerset West and Gordons Bay and Salouris Pass. Yes.
Mm.
My
It's
hometown.
fantastic. Your hometown.
Yes.
So maybe in the comments you can let us know if you're also from this area or where you're watching from. I really want you to give a shout out tonight. And then also if you have a question that has been burning in your heart, this is your opportunity to ask Julian that question. So let me just tell you a little bit about him that I Googled. And I hope this is accurate that they posted about him. But I never knew that Julian used to be a teacher. So hy het gesê dit vir 18 jaar het hy skool gehou en hy was 'n aardrykskunde en geskiedenisonderwyser. So he was a teacher in geography and history for 18 years. En in 2005 was hy die departementshoof van Ristov waarvan hy nou gepraat het in die Strand, daar by daardie hoërskool. En toe het Julian toevallig in journalistiek beland. So dit was baie interessant. So hy was 'n skool in die onderwys gewees en toe het ek gelees, Julian, dat dit sê dat jy deel van die VGK gemeente daai tyd het jy 'n koerantjie begin, Strandkorrels, en jy het daar rubrieke geskryf. So jy kan vir ons self vertel, hoe het Strandkorrels en die rubriek wat jy geskryf het dan op die einde van die dag by die rapport uitgekom?
Yes, I think that was the key that God gave me to actually unlock some skills that I thought I didn't have, that actually my teacher at primary school actually told you can write nice essays. That was always the refrain at the time. But that key came when I was deadlocked, and I applied for a number of posts. Look, I wanted to be a principal because they would call you meester or sir, meester, schoolhoof. And I just couldn't make it. And I thought at that time that many times I was the best man for the job, but it proved not to be. And I was a bit depressed, and ek het op moed verloor, so vlakte gesit. But at that time, the key was turning, and that was when I started a newsletter for our church as an elderly or ouderling. And then I saw in the report one Sunday that you can actually submit an essay. And so I've submitted something about Christmas and about my father taking us in the Vauxhall in the old Cortina station wagon to Salouris Pass. And that was on the 24th. And then he would disappear in the dark.
Sure.
And we would hear crunching and branches breaking. And then he would come out from the dark with a small pine tree, and then we will take it home and decorate it, and that would be our Christmas tree. So my pa was hierdie lang sterk man. Hy was ons hero gewees van sy 4 seuns en sy 2 dogters. En so ek skryf toe oor die wonder van Kersfees, van Kersfees. En toe sê 'n rapport, luister my, sê Jacob Rooi vir my, dit is 'n goeie ene, skryf ons weer. En ek skryf toe weer, hulle sê toe later weer, skryf ons elke maand. En nou then you receive a stipend of 350. At that time, 2005, it was quite a lot for a teacher. So the crisis came, and in hindsight, decades later, I would regard crisis as very important in one's life, because it forces you to make a major shift in your life and in the direction. Sometimes onto paths that you actually don't want to wander and never thought of actually wandering on.
Wow.
so that crisis came when I was rejected, not selected as a deputy principal at the school, and but at the time, Rapport asked me to come and work for them, and it was just like that. En toe dink ek, right, well, life begins at 42. Laat ek gaan. En laat ek gaan en ek ry toe. The 3rd of January I started 2006. I started at a report in Cape Town. I had no experience of being a journalist. I learned while I was running. And my first article was on the Kaapse Klok, the Pennsylvanians in Cape Town. Maar wat in my gunstel is, ek is 'n harde, ek mag dit seker maar sê, ek is 'n harde werker, ek is 'n eerlike werker, and I think I got that qualities from my father and my mother to always do our best, and that is what pulled me through. Like I told you, I'm a self-made journalist, and I've been 14 years at Rapport. And I've grown all the time. I'm learning. I'll be learning even if I reach 100. I will always be learning. I will make mistakes, but I will learn all the time. And hier is ek vandag. Yeah.
So I really hope that you guys are taking the nuggets that he's sharing tonight, because he said that he had the ambition to become that principal, to be called a sir, and maybe that has to do with identity. I don't know, but that was not the pathway that eventually turned out to be. And then he found himself at the age 42. Now, many of us, when we reach our 40s, it really brings an identity crisis, I believe, when our path is wobbly or certain things happen in life. And I know that some of you watching or listening right now might be at the place where you perhaps, due to the pandemic or anything happening, your world was shaken. And you find yourself at an age where you wonder, what must I do now? Am I too old? Am I the wrong skin color? We know all of these excuses, especially that we as South Africans have. But tonight, Julian just said that then he made that statement that life begins at 42. So come on. And Julian, so then you worked yourself up. But what I also love that you said is that you know that you're a hard worker. And it's something that you can take pride in. It's something that you learned from your dad. And let me just see, I want to backtrack there. So you're a self-made journalist. I never even thought that you could reach these heights by not going through the school of journalism of wat jy journalistiek gaan swat het en sulke tipe van goedjies. And how did you gain the respect of other journalists who did go through that original or hoe kan ek sê, daai gewone journey? Moes jy jouself bewys?
Yes, I think being a hard worker, I have the driving force as well to do good and to do my best, but also to enjoy my work. And I would say in the following years, while working that hard, and also watching certain individuals as markers in my field to see how they approaching stories, how do they report about stories. Also reading what our opposition do, how journalists in the opposition also report on, and just learning all the time. Also to read up. One thing that I like a lot when I do a story is just to prepare myself and Google. If I do a story on a certain individual, I will Google him. And the best source of information is Facebook. People should be very careful and they should be very anxious, because they will never realize how many information they put on. Like you're taking a picture and behind you is your father's smart Mercedes-Benz, but we have the number plate. So people with evil minds can take that number and trace your address, trace and get many other information from that. But saying that, it helped me a lot to be to develop in investigative nose. to probe that field and gather information. I can tell that I'm very good at gathering facts. So while I was writing the nonfiction book, I'm a gatherer of facts. Great authors like John Mayer, they invent facts, they invent characters, they even write CVs, curriculum vitae for the characters. So that is very, very great, exceptional minds. But I'm a gatherer of facts, and I need that facts to populate my story because I'm the eyes and the ears and the mouth for our readers. So if I go in the story, I have to gather a lot of facts and then mold that into a thrilling story. Something I would like to do a story. I'm doing stories for our newspaper as if it's an extract from a book to grip the reader. And I think that also in the long run prepare myself unintentionally to be a writer one day. And I think the publishers saw that, especially when I was reporting on Henry van Breda.
Yes.
That in itself was quite a journey, but I will never stop to say the hand of God in that, the divine intervention when God gave me. I've said it in all platforms that God gave me a retired detective, and he provided me with so much information that I could populate and enrich the text in my newspaper stories. And by that hard work that I put in, I was noticed. And people must remember that if you work hard, people will notice you. People of importance, they will notice you. So the publisher noticed that, and they approached me to write a book. And I did that book, and a production company in Los Angeles noticed that, and they approached me to ask me if I can sell them the film rights of the results of the book. So what I want to tell our brothers and sisters and the viewers is, if you do honestly hard work, sometimes you're not educated in that field, or you don't have the degrees. But if you do hard work, it can take you places. And I'm thank you for that I can achieve that in while working as a journalist.
Sure. Julian, someone asked you, Brendan asked a question, and he's saying, how does Julian manage to get the news first?
Thank you, Brendan. That is a very important question, and I would love to answer that. And that is a sentiment that some people also sometimes put to me. How do you get it? And I've told someone last week, I invest in good relationships with people. I invest in them. If colleagues from other newspapers ask me something, I will help them. And if they ask me tomorrow, I will help them. I will help them, because there will come a day then when I seriously and urgently need information, then I can just pick up the phone and they will give it to me. Wow. Why? Because I invested in him. I invest in people, and for good relations. So, and what happens is that is the exciting work of a journalist, to build yourself a network of sources. I can sit at home. I'm working from home the past 3 years. I can sit at home and I have feelers, networks all across wherever, not the earth, but all across. So if there's a bus accident in Beaufort West, I will just check my WhatsApp list, or then I will say, I'll type in the name Beaufort West, and up pop all the people that I know in Beaufort West, and I can choose 3, 4, 5 to call them and ask, what happened with that bus accident? Do you have a picture for me, or can you help me here? And they will help me, because I helped them in the past. The other thing Dion, is I'm enlisted on a lot of WhatsApp groups as well. So when that accident happens in Beaufort West, I will receive pictures, I will receive videos, and sometimes I will put it on my Facebook page, Julian Jansen Journalist, or I will share it with a daily newspaper like the Burger for them to use in their news reporting. But I'm blessed to have friends all over the country, or mostly all over the country, to assist me. And as a journalist, that is part of your portfolio, to build that network. But like I said, you have to invest in people, and they have to trust you. And you have to trust them.
That is absolutely powerful. So I'm just going to put this on here for you guys to follow Julian's page, Julian Jansen Journalist. Just before we came on, I saw a news story, and it's many times juicy stuff, and then but it's always factual, and then it's accidents and things. So before we get into your journey as an author, I just wanted to ask you, Julian, how do you personally deal with, or how do you separate yourself from the things that you many times report, like accidents and horror things, or there's been a shooting here and there's been fatalities and stuff like that? Does it ever affect you, or these murders that you've been writing out about, or do you manage to separate yourself from the story that's happening?
Yeah, I always tell people that you don't go through that process or that unscathed. You will always be affected. Journalists aren't people that get shoved into a cupboard at night and then tomorrow taken out and then just pushed into life to go and work. We are normal people. I'm a father of 2 boys. I have responsibilities. I pay my tax on time. I pay my tax. I pay my accounts. I don't speed. So I do all the. I'm a normal person.
Law-abiding citizen.
Law-abiding citizen, yeah. Because I have to set an example. I don't want to appear in the sun for speeding or other things. So we have that responsibility as well. So yes. So when I go out in stories, I represent my newspaper report, and how I conduct myself outside. You will gain the respect by people, and you give respect to them as well. It happened a lot when just the way that you treat people, that people will come back to you in the future and say, listen, I have this story and I have that story, because the way you treated them and how you actually represented them in your story on a fair basis. In the printed paper. But to come back to answer, Chantell, we don't go through all those things unscathed. It actually casts a shadow on us as well.
Sure.
Why? Because we are at the forefront of news, and people must realize that journalists put their lives at risk, but not only our lives, our psychological welfare as well.
Wow.
Because we have, especially when there's a murder, you are confronted with the pictures of the murder. And I must tell you today, it's not easy to approach a family whose loved one was murdered or taken away through an incident. And sometimes you get shoved out of the way. Sometimes you get yelled at. Sometimes hulle skel vir jou, soms dat jy see water jy kan afwas nie. En dan soms voel 'n mens soos hy Mickey Mouse tekeningkie van Mickey Mouse wat so slumped overstap nadat hy nou een of ander ding oorgekom het. En dan voel jy baie keer baie sleg. But I always tell people that I'm just doing my job. I'm not here to actually look at you while you're mourning a loss of a loved one. I'm here to actually report on this free and fair, because we have readers out there that wants to know. And to also come back to your question again, that is why our report and all the other companies, Media 24, we have an employees wellness program.
Wow.
that we can that we actually must make use of. And I've used that in the past. I've used it recently when I was going through a lot of trauma, like the loss of my wife in 2018.
Sure.
And then afterwards, I think I had about 4 to 5 to 6 sessions, and it was tough. And I I had a counselor here in the Strand, but she actually cried first. She started crying, and then afterwards I started crying. But in retrospect, it was comical for me because she gave me a roll of toilet paper. She didn't have tissues, and I always said that I want to go back to and give her a box of tissues. But it was two-ply toilet roll. My wife always insisted never one-ply. So luckily for her, she gave me a two-ply toilet paper. Yeah. So if you don't go through that the counseling sessions, that gaan vir jou inhaal, because not long after that, an ex-colleague of mine called me that he's going to commit suicide. I had to talk him through that. He had a pact with his girlfriend. I managed to get a father contacted him. He took her away from him. And he went on, he even asked me the Saturday morning, Julian, wanneer sak julle koerant? When is deadline? Because then I realized he wanted me to actually report on his death. And then after we ended the call, I never heard of him again. I only heard 2 days later that he actually took an overdose of pills and he committed suicide. And that put me in a big spin, because it was back to square one.
Sure.
It is where you fall a few stories. But then again, I had this brother, Dani Julius, the late Dani Julius of Macassar. When I was lying there on the ground floor, I just called him, and then he would come and just talk to me. And then when he left, I was sitting in the penthouse again. I was sitting on top of the double. Yeah. So, but if one don't work with that and seek counseling, and I know a few journalists that don't want to go. I say it with a lot of respect. They don't want to make use of that. As one colleague told me, "No, I'm popping pills. Ek pop real pille teen dit." And I've been there. I've been there when I fought against a minister in 2009 when I was his spokesperson. I was thrown into a deep pit when I was in depression for 7 months. That was in 2010. I myself was in every newspaper. I was even in the report on page 2 and page 3. My own newspaper. I was on the front page of the Cape Town, Cape Argus, even Mail and Guardian, and I won a CCMA case against that minister, but it took a psychological toll on myself. I slept for 7 months. I was out the job. Without a job, I was down and out, and I actually had to use antidepressants like Lexamil and Alprazolam. But God he carried me through that trauma, and I won my case. At one time, the department said they want to settle with me for this amount. I told them, no, I'm not here for settlement. I'm here to be exonerated. I'm here to win this case. I'm not here for money. So I went on, and then I won the case, and they had to give me that amount of money. And then the report called me again, said, Julian, kom huis toe. Kom weer terug na ons toe. En toe gaan ek terug 2011, 2010, is ek weer terug by report. And I thought at that time, I'm going to repay report for that, and I'm going to work double as hard as that.
Wow.
Not for them, but for myself.
Yes.
Just to, it took me a few months just to get into momentum, and that momentum I could sustain for a few years until now, and God has always just been good to me. Yes.
Yo, Julian, I just want to honor you as we're speaking, and I just want to get into one or two other topics quick, but I want to honor you for your authenticity and your vulnerability, because I believe that that speaks so loud tonight, and that God honors you. And I think that one thing that people must know is that you are unashamedly a lover of God. You trust in the Lord. He directs your pathway. I know that before we came onto the live, you also testified how God supernaturally intervened so many times in your life. Where did your journey, your spirit-filled journey, or did you have an encounter with the Lord Jesus Christ?
Yeah, some people have dramatic. I wasn't on the Damascus Road at some time, but I can say when I was little, het die predikante vir ons bang gemaak oor liewe Jesus. Ons het in vrees, ons het geglo dat hy is 'n God van wraak. As jy nie luister, gaan hy jou pak gee. So I told the story when I was in church. The Dominie would always say, if you go out of this building now and you don't give your heart to Jesus, you don't accept him as your personal savior, and the bread lorry hits you and you die, you will go straight to hell. So ek was baie bang vir broodlorries en lorries. As die broodlorry aankom, dan is ek hier die kant op daai kant toe, en ek wil nie hel toe gaan nie. Maar wat ek eintlik wil sê, what I want to say is, it was, I don't think in hindsight it was a goeie proses om kinders bang te maak, want God is nie God wat van kinders bang maak nie. But we must remember, I come out of that age of autoritaire gehoorsaamheid, streng ouers, en jy doen dit, jy moet gesien word en nie gehoor word en daai goedjies nie. And it took me, it actually accept the Lord in my life only when after I got married in 1987, when I got married, and dat het net naadloos gebeur, soemloos, dat daar was nie there was no fireworks and boom boom and what happened, but it was just a thing like, al wat die ander Dominie toe gesê het, is hy made a simple suggestion. Hy sê net, jy moet net omdraai. So, jy moet omdraai.
Come on. Sure.
Jy hoef nie te huil en te hardloop en te val op die grond en te rol nie.
Yes.
Jy kan het doen, ja. Het is nie fout, but wat my getref het, 'n simpel woord, jy moet omdraai. And that was the most profound word I ever heard.
Wow.
So
it's like, they say, if the gospel is simple, don't try to make it profound, because the result is always profound if you keep it simple.
The results are always profound, and I realized I have a duty as a father of my 2 boys. Om hulle mooi groot te maak. Maar wat gebeur het, is dat ek het nie net besef, I didn't only realize to educate my boys. I was a teacher at the time, and we had a lot of boys in our school. So ek het skool gehou by die een skool, Gordon Hoërskool, en dit was eintlik vervelig, want hulle was almal goeie kinders. But the most exciting part in my career came when I was promoted. I got a post as departmental head, social sciences at Rusthof Secondary in the Strand. En toe mense hoor, ek gaan na die skool toe sê hulle, gaan jy na die mekaar skool toe, hulle gaan jou vrek maak. Mense my net so gestryd gesê, op baie kras manier.
Yes.
But I love challenges. Ek het hulle gesê, I had to believe and see that to believe that. And the first week, a boy, seun het gekom, hy wil my met 'n passer steek.
Wow.
Then I told my colleague, die skool gaan my doodmaak. But then I had critical portfolios in that school as a department head. I had the portfolio of the administration, of the safety and security of the school. And one important thing my portfolio was buildings. So I did what Rudy Giuliani, the then mayor of New York, did when he was appointed as mayor. Hy het al die gebreekte venstertjies van die stad reggemaak. Hy het graffiti verwyder. So I started that om die skool te herstel. Ek het oor die 300 ruitte laat regmaak. And you know, one day Kobus Valentine from Laurenspas, he pitched out of nowhere and he just aangemeld en gesê ek is hier om te help. And I put him to work en ek het hom 'n werkie gegee, maar hy het nie werk gehad nie. Maar die verskil, the difference that he made in that school, he painted the school, he repaired the broken windows, the doors, all that. And then and that is where the miracle started to happen. The children saw that the school is becoming a place where they can be proud of. En weet jy wat ek gedoen het? Iets wat ek gedoen het, nee. Ek vat die stoutste seun op die skool. Ek sê kom hier seun. Ek het 'n probleem. I have a problem. My wife packed me 6 sandwiches. I won't be able to finish the 6. Can you help me? Can you help me with the 6? You can take 2. No. You can take 4. I'll do the other 2. And I did that in the immediate presence of other pupils. So hulle is sommer nou verbaas. Hoe kan meneer nog vir die kind kos gee? Of ek sê ek vat my hierdie boeke na juffrou Julie aan die verste kant van die skool. Dan dink die kinders, maar hoe kan meneer die kind gaan huis toe hardloop? But I trusted him and I believed in him. En hy teruggekom. And then we took the top 10 misdemeanors on the school. We took them on a hike in the Boland Mountains.
Sure.
Alle
stoutstes nou.
Alle stoutstes, but we didn't tell them they were the most the delinquents. We told them we have chosen you.
Ooh, wow.
To represent the school in the mountains. And then we told them if you don't follow rules in the mountains, you can die.
Sure.
And I'm telling you, we haven't done the half of the hike. Then they started to ask, sir, when is our next hike? Except for Chantell, that was, if we don't invest in our boys, and the teacher is the best person to do that. They have influence for a large part of the day on pupils. Die probleem is net, ek kry ons ouers as onderwysers baie jammer vandag. Hulle word toegegooi with administrative work. And they never have the opportunity to do a home visit or to share the sandwich with a delinquent child or take them on hikes. En dit is waar ons die bal laat val. Dit is waar die pap op die grond val. And that is where our community actually will suffer.
Wow.
Is that we so much focus on admin and we are losing. So ons kry baie goeie onderwysers buite, maar as onderwysers wat nog bietjie meer kan doen vir die kinders. So dit is kort wat ek wil sê, ja.
Julian, ek wil net luister na alles wat jy praat, want dit kom met wysheid, dit kom met ervaring en mense sal dom wees om net te hoor te sê nie. But then you wrote Seuns Sonder Pa's. How did that come about? Was it part of your own journey? And maybe you can tell us what you've seen the effect is on children who don't have a dad or have absent fathers in our country.
Yeah. I think Lux Verby thought that they are doing me a favor to ask me to write a book. But for me, God works in mysterious ways. God asked them to approach me, to ask me to write that book. There's no doubt about that. And when they did, I told them I already have the book, and I'm going to write about boys without fathers. Why? Firstly, because I've experienced that firsthand in my own life. And secondly, I've experienced that as a teacher in our schools. Kind kom skool toe, is kwaad, en wat doen ons? We as teachers are reactive. We immediately focus on his anger. He's coming to class late or just walking home. En ons sien nie die groter prentjie nie. En ek het al I went through that process, and it was a story to be told, because I've seen the fruits of investing in children. I've seen how, I told you how in the years that followed, rest of secondary, matric results improved. The even was at times better than most of the other schools in the area.
Wow.
And that was the fruits that did that. Eendag het ons toe die kinders matriek afskeid gehad het, in steede van vir hulle vat net na die saal toe in die strand, het ons gesê, let's invite the community, the parents to the school. Hulle sit 'n erewag van die hek af tot by die skool se ingang, en dan kom die kinders in. Weet jy watter impak het dit gemaak? Dit het ons trane het geloop by dag, almal, want die ouers het gesien dat kinders uit hulle arm omgewing, out of this poverty-stricken Broughton's Park and neighboring areas, they can also reach matric. They can also write matric, but hulle kan ook stunning lyk op die aand wat hulle afskeid het. En die impak van hy aand het ek persoonlik kon ervaar hoe die trots van die skool en die gemeenskap gegroei het in die tyd. And that is very important. Ek sê altyd dat die land en die man van Gift of the Givers, hy het dit self gesê ook nou die dag, dat die land behoort aan ons, is ons land. Het is nie die president se land. It's not the minister's country. Het is gemeenskappe se land. Hierdie land behoort aan, and I'm very adamant about that.
Powerful, sure.
It belongs to communities, because communities can rejuvenate themselves. As gesinne is die kleinste bousteen, is the families are the smallest building blocks of a community. As ons nie ons gesinne verstewig, if we don't invest in them, it will always pose problems and challenges for our community. And die school is so belangrik. I always ask the question is, why didn't I become a gangster or a scholar? Sure. Because I had all the opportunities, me and my brothers, to become scholars. That would add 4 scholars to the community of strength, which is already too much. But in the absence of a father that was emotional absent, we were surrounded by mentors, role models. And then I told you about my father once said that, gaan daar na die liggaambou klip toe en dan kry bietjie lig in jou longe.
So you became a bodybuilder?
I became a bodybuilder. No need soos die professionals nie, maar we have to talk about the process of being a bodybuilder, because the process, it was a journey. It was not the end of having a big body, but the journey, and the fruits of that journey was, ek het nie meer skaam gevoel. Ek het jou gesê, ek het met 'n rooi speedootjie op die stage gestaan. We didn't at that time have enough money for Johnson's baby. It had nice smelling Johnson's baby oil. So ons moet maar lyfolie aangesmeer het, wat bietjie so daar vis ryk amper. Maar ons het dit aangesmeer en ons staan op die stage met ons bewende boutjies en ons staan daar. Maar the end result is the amount of confidence that I gained in myself to express myself and to look after your body, a sound mind, sound body. All that lessons that was told that I could learn through that. And today I'm very thankful still for the mentors in our bodybuilding club. I've seen not places overseas, but I've seen places in the Western Cape. As a 16-year-old, I visited George, I visited Beaufort West, Stellenbosch Bay, Paul, St. Helena Bay, and Veldrif. But I went places en die kameradie van ons as jong seuns wat gemould word deur dit.
Wow.
And that fighting spirit to do our best on stage, to practice hard so that we can gain muscle mass and definition, and to actually maybe get the first or second or third prize. But that role, that mentors made a huge difference. It turned my life around as well. My brothers was in the Scouts, and that always also had tremendous advantages for them as well. So, terug te kom na jou vraag, I've seen the impact of absent fathers on our boys at the schools. Ek het die vermisting gesien, en dit was het in aksie gekom deur hulle gedrag op skool, hulle lae prestasies, hulle swak punte. En ek meen, omdat jy arm is, beteken dit jy is dom nie. Hoekom moet jy lae punte kry? It also have to do with confidence. En 'n seun het 'n pa nodig om vir hom te sê, luister Boeta, om to give him feedback, to say, listen Boeta, ek is trots op jou, jy het goed gedoen, jy het miskien laaste gekom, maar pa is nog steeds trots op jou, maar daar's niemand om dit vir hom te sê nie.
Ja.
But I always say that single parents, my late wife always said, sy sê, jy moenie so oor vrouens wees nie. Ek sê, but ek is mal oor enkel mamas, enkel vrouens, single parents, because hulle sterk en slim. They have the scars to show, but the scars that show that they've made the journey to get the best for the children. So mamas slim, want hulle pick and choose mense uit die gemeenskap uit om hulle kinders te omarm. En hulle survive even without the father. En wat ek nogal vieserig raak is, fathers make a comeback when that boy or girl is married one day, have a stable job, and then the father want to make a comeback.
Yeah.
And that's sad, because you have lost out on that journey, the journey of your boy from toddler to teenager, and that very important stretch of adolescence. En wat ek ook vanmiddag aan gedink het, is dat mense dink dat al hierdie groeiprosesse en leerprosesse eindig wanneer die kind volwasse word, when he reach the age of 21. And I can testify to you that at my age of 58, I'll tell you now, I'm 58, Chantell. At my age, thank you, Chantell. I'm still learning. I'm making mistakes, but I'm learning all the time.
Wow.
So ek werk in 'n fantastiese groep mense by rapport, en hulle vang net waar jy kan fouteer. Soms maak ek foute of hulle maak foute, maar ek is hulle verstaan. Ek is deur 3-4 redakteurs wat die een ou redakteur Bokkie Gerbert sê vir my, Julian, jy is nie 'n renperd nie, jy's 'n ploegperd. Wat eintlik wil sê is dat ek vir jou gesê het, ek is 'n harde werker. Ek is nie, hy mis die, maar jy is die eerste fyn atleties gespierde fynbesnaarde atleet nie. Ek is 'n renperd nie. Ek is 'n ploegperd. En net there, with that tenacity, I've managed to get stories that sometimes no other journalist could get.
Sure.
I got stories. Eendag vra hulle vir my, hulle sê my, Fred van der Vyver is verloof. And that is all the information that I got. And I'm working by divine intervention. En Vrydag aand kry ek 'n nommer van 'n sekere dame en sy tel op. Ek vra nie vir is dit so nie. And I just got that inkling to say, baie geluk met jou verloving.
Sure.
And then she said, thank you very much. And then I got the story. Because she admitted,
Yes.
and I had my story. But what I will always tell my colleagues at work is that I'm working on divine intervention, and God has given me stories at times that nobody could get, and vice versa. Sometimes other colleagues would get stories that no one of us could get. And I want to tell the viewers out there that we as journalists, we are not working on fuel, we are not running on BP or engine, or we are all working also in divinity, in God's hand. We are also product of God's grace.
Sure.
And we give God all the glory for that.
Wow.
En so wanneer ons met mense praat en so aan, ons is nie mense dink baie keer we are hyenas, we are jackals, and we are wolves. We're just here to devour and to get the news and to go out and print something. But we work on those principles that each one of you also work on in your work, and that is to have respect for each and every one.
Wow.
And because I've worked 15 years in the media, and you have to build up your name. My name is not Julian. My name is Julian Jansen. Or Jansen, like they say in Cape Town.
Julian
My name
Jansen.
is Julian. That is a trademark. And I've built that name with integrity. And one misstep, you can lose that. So we always cognizant of that. Is whenever we work, you have to treat people with respect. If you're working with the poorest of the poor or the richest of the rich, you treat them equally. For me, a poor person is just as equal as a very, very wealthy person. And that is how I go about in my job.
Sjoe, Julian, ek is aangeraak en ek seker almal is. Ek wil net gou laastens voor ons goodbye sê, wil ek net gou praat oor jou baie onlangse splinternuwe boek, Moord op Stellenbosch. Wil jy nie vir ons vertel net gou? Ek het aanvanklik vir jou gevra, gaan dit net oor die Desalse moorde en jy het vir my so 'n bietjie meer vertel. Sê vir ons vertel van dit en hoe dit kom dat iemand dan nou 'n boek kan skryf oor moorde, want sekerlik moet jy al jou feite bymekaar hê as jy oor dit skryf.
That's correct, Chantell. And that fact you will only get if people talk to you, if you gain their confidence and respect, but also if you can get access to dockets. So I had 12 months to write that book. I can tell you I waited 6 months for the docket, and panic buttons would lit up orange and red. But one always in life, like in life, you have to have a B plan and a C plan and D and whatever. So my B plan was to go to the High Court and ask to get access to court documents. While I was waiting for that, I drew up a structure. I went to the High Court. I didn't get all the information, but then I went to the transcription section. I got information there. So while waiting and that is how life works. While waiting on the things that you want to do, you can do other things. You have a plan B, you can have a plan C. That is strategy, and I always work on strategy. So while working on strategy, I like we plucking fruit from a tree. I plucked all the well-known high-profile cases from this tree. Inge Lotz, Hannah Cornelius, Aaron van Rensburg, Susan Rode. But then I realized that all these high-profile murders the victims were white. And I knew that if I just write about a book, and to write a book, and the whole process is very, very expensive to write a book and to publish it. So I can't waste money here. And I will be criticized if I only have a book with white victims. So I thought, where is we're going to get colored victims? I had to Google, but colored victims like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when they were murdered, they didn't reach the front pages of page 2 or page 3. So, and then God steps in again. He knew my predicament, and once again, I would say, he nudged Denver Adams to call me and say, out of nowhere, Denver called me and say, Julian, can you write about my sister's story? And her name was Chantell Davis.
Wow.
And I told him, Denver, I can't write a story for you for a report, a news story, because it isn't a news story, Denver. But I can give you a platform for your sister's story. We're going to honor your sister. We're going to tell the world that your sister was important. And your sister's story is important. It is so important that when Kwela asked me to appear on the show with Hannes, they asked me, and God actually nudged them as well to ask me the question, vir wie kan jy saambring? I had the answer. I told them, Denver Adams coming with me, and he's going to tell you in South Africa that his sister story is an important story because she was an important individual. And that story is the one that got me very emotional. Wow. And like I told you, because this Chantell, she reminded me of my late wife. She was in Afrikaans, sy was mollig, nommer 1. Sy het baie gelag. She loved nice clothes. En ook sy het 'n eenvoudige werkie gehad. My vrou was net 'n verkoopsdame gewees by 'n sportwinkel. En Chantell sy het gewerk in die Biltong kiosk in Pick n Pay in Stellenbosch. Maar sy was vermoord deur iemand baie na aan haar. En as julle when you read the book, you will discover who that person was that murdered Chantell Davis. So to skryf, then I wrote the story of Chantell Davis, and also wrote another story of Felicity Silliers. She was a farm worker, and she was murdered in nearly exactly the same way as Hannah Cornelius, that was murdered by the gangsters. But Hannah was on the newspapers' front pages and all the time. But what I respect and admire of Hannah Cornelius's parents, Willem, I call them Willem, and Tannie Anna, Aunt Anna, ons sê, they made it their work to tell the journalists, listen, ons is baie skaam oor hoe ons kind Hannah in die nuus voorblaaie haal. What about the poor victims? What about why don't they get onto the front page? Ons is skaam oor dit. Dit moet reggestel word.
Sure.
So dit sê vir jou dat selfs even the families of the victims actually say, when I sign a book, I would say there, I would write there, in life and in death, we are all equal. We are all important. And that is what, so in the end result is that the book will tell us, listen, this 12 victims will say they are all important in life and death. And even if they are persons of color, we are all just important and equal as the other. And that is what my book wants to say
Amen.
to the people out there.
Yeah. Sure. Julian, I would just want to thank you also. Just, I believe I speak on behalf of everyone, that you would put yourself on the line, that you would be the one, would be the front runner, that you would give us the insight, the hindsight of what happened in these cases where many wonder. And I believe that God has specifically ordained your life for this journey. And what this process of becoming is all about is the Lord laid on my heart that there are his children that are scattered all over the world, and they are still continuing with his acts, like the book of Acts is continuing. And we've got a false sense of belief that when we think that you can only operate for God when you're in the religious mountain, when you're inside the church, which is not the case. And here, where you say that what you're doing as an investigative journalist, as an author and so forth, I can see how God is using you. You are able to go into places, be in the hearts and the homes of people where the church would never be able to get. So I just pray tonight that the Lord will open up great doorways for you. I mean, that you will walk in that blueprint, that pathway, which was laid out for you since the beginning of time, Julian. And that the Lord will supernaturally provide for you. And I really want to honor you. And then lastly, I saw there's a young lady here, Mariska. She's asking this question before we say goodbye. And Mariska is asking, what advice would you give to the younger generation that are interested in journalism?
Thank you, Mariska, for that question. Journalism is a very, very exciting career. And you need certain qualities, like you have to be inquisitive. You have to, but you have to have skills like how to speak to people, how to approach them, and you can't be a journalist if you don't have general knowledge. And that comes back to my teaching career, is that there's a challenge in our youth that they read, that they don't read too much, that they don't actually read. And one of my first thing that I would say to potential journalists, people that would be interested in journalism, is to start reading. You can't start reading the newspaper when you start your first year. And I would ask parents to supply their children with newspapers, and even not newspapers, is the way that you use your cell phone, for example, not to play games, but to have access to websites that have news pages, that we can develop a culture of reading. And that is important, that not only for journalism, for any other profession of field of study that you want to engage on. And if we can start there, if parents can in home give children that opportunity, just to have a culture of reading, that is the first step to work from that. And what I can say, if we look at journalism, and there's a lot of people that actually, there's a growing number of our youth that has developed an interest in journalists, and that is making me very excited. So thank you for that question, Mariska.
So just lastly, since mentorship and mentoring is so important to you, Julian, are you at the moment actively mentoring anyone or open to anything like that? I don't know if you've got time for things like that, but do you mentor younger people?
I will be saying farewell to journalism in 2 years' time, but then I will be freelancing.
Oh wow!
Because I'm 58. But what I'm doing, I took it on myself to identify 3 journalists in our company, and I'm
Sure.
focusing on that. Only 3. So what I like about the one colleague of mine in Cape Town is he would phone me every week on Tuesday just to run through his news list,
Wow.
and then he would ask input from myself on how is he on the right path, what should he do there. And I have huge respect for that, for him to come to me, because he actually identified myself as someone, a person, a go-to person, that he think that can actually assist him in growing
Wow.
in his career. And on the other hand, I also identified him as a person that I can actually share my knowledge, but
Pour
also,
into.
yeah, and that is exciting. So I'm not working with 20 or 30
Yes.
people. I focused, identified 3 journalists that I can focus on. So, if God willing, what I want to do after I'm retiring is to work for an NPO and then work with organizations that work with young boys or children. And that's where I want to put my energy in. So I'm very excited about that journey as well.
Yo. No, your best days are ahead of you. My goodness. So I think we can end it off here. This was one of the most profound interviews that I've had, and God has really been good. I must share with you, the journey for me started when we were still in East London, and I watched your interview one night. I was busy with my process of writing my book, Royal Comeback, and I watched an interview of you just after Seuns Sonder Paas, en ek het jou gesê dit het gelyk net soos vanaand waar ek gesien het met die trap agter jou, and I said to myself, I am going to connect with this man. I didn't know how, I didn't know what the journey would hold. And I got my book to you and I followed your journey, and lo and behold, never knew at that stage that we would be moving from East London to the Helderberg area, where I basically am your neighbor. Haven't had a coffee yet, but Kevin and I are great, I don't want to say fans, and we don't uplift people or whatever, but we've got a great respect, because it's like you see, or like you said, once you view someone's life and you constantly see how they deal with things and their integrity, you start gaining respect for people. And I just knew in my heart, and I said, Lord, I want to connect with this individual because I want to tell the story behind what people would see. So tonight is really something very special for me, Julian, and I do not take it lightly. And but may the Lord bless you. And I believe that those who have been watching right now live, those who will still listen to the podcast, I want you to go and search for Julian Jansen Journalist on his Facebook. Go and support, pray for him. Pray for him. Go and read his books. Go and buy Seuns Sonder Paas. Read it, lees dit, kry dit binne in jou en pass it, pay it forward, so that we can create a community who gets an understanding of what the role of a father is. And I believe if all of us work together, we can change our culture, our society, from a fatherless generation to where dads and maybe men in the community stand up, and we can change within the next generation that fathers are absent, are active in their lives again. And then go. Every great bookstore has Stellenbosch Moorde, of die Moord op Stellenbosch. You have to get that in your hand, and just support where you can. I want to honor you, and you must sleep well, and we love you, Julian. Have a good night.
I love you, all of you, as well as the viewers. Thank you so much, Chantell.
Okay. Bye, Yella. Good night, everyone.
Bye.